Welcome back to the couch with Dazza and
Welcome back to the couch.
Yeah.
Welcome back to welcome back to Dazza's couch. Welcome back to another episode of the Legal Ops podcast, the podcast about legal operations, technology, and the business of law. My name is Daryl Osuch. I am the current host, and I am here with the former host, one of the former hosts, the podfather, and someone in the mix, in the fray, in generative AI, legal operations, and Dubai, Alex Rosenrauch.
Dazza, Daryl, what else can I call you? Friend? All of the above?
All of the above.
A couple of things I'm excited about.
Ooh!
One, that you're in Dubai.
Yes.
Okay, that's really exciting.
Yes.
Two, that I get to see you again. It's been so long.
Yes.
And then three, getting back on this podcast.
Yes.
I feel like it's been a hole that I haven't been able to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I mean, I had a podcast-shaped hole in my life.
Yeah.
That you just came along.
Yeah, here you go.
You saw me like I was gray and dark and despondent and
Exactly.
said, I know what you need. I know what you need. Middle-aged man with beard. You obviously need a podcast.
Podcast,
Yeah,
exactly.
you were like, your interest in craft beer is lacking. What you really need is a podcast and a beanie hat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're aligned. Yeah, the stars aligned.
So for listeners who don't know, Alex and Elliot were the original creators of the Legal Ops podcast, which has now sort of been alive for many years. I've only been at the helm for about a year. And we worked together, and that was already a year and a half, two.
Many moons have passed. many moons have passed. But it can't be that long ago. I reckon probably 2 years ago.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give or take.
What has elapsed?
Oh my, what's up? Probably more grey hairs on you. Me.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah. What's changed? So I think last time we were working really closely together in Japan. I was living in Brisbane. I moved to Dubai with my wife and my lovely dog, Remy. Shout out. She has her own Instagram. Remy the Cocker Spaniel. And I've been setting up a team here in Dubai. So still at PwC, still loving it. Get to see innovation from this side of the world, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I've just been here traveling. I mean, the good thing about living in Dubai is just the accessibility, so many places. Like, I loved Australia, obviously, but you're on an island quite far away from things. So being able to go to the Maldives, which is like 4 hours away.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I go to the Maldives all the time.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I've never
That's
been.
why it's so relatable.
So relatable, yeah.
And going to London and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. So I've been really, really enjoying that. And I'm working with some really interesting clients here, like doing some really interesting things that I wouldn't have seen probably in Australia or wouldn't have seen in the US while I was there.
Give us a bit more detail, the extent that you can.
Yeah.
Please, we just walked through. What is it? Innovation Lab, the robot dog sanctuary.
Yeah, Nacho.
Nacho, the robot dog. Shout out Nacho. I think he
doesn't have an Instagram.
He's a follower of your Cocker Spaniel.
Correct, exactly.
Look, you're doing a bunch of stuff. It is. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say sort of at or near the cutting edge of what a lot of this technology can and should be doing. Generative AI, but supporting the legal function. But you tell me. You tell me more.
Well, I think I would say that there's a difference in a lot of different things that are happening, right? Like technology has progressed and legal ops has progressed and things like that, which will lead me into like the stuff that we're doing here. But at a macro level, what's so interesting about the Middle East, and it sounds like I'm going to be an ambassador at this point, but I'm fully into this, right? The difference, I guess, in the Middle East is just that like innovation pressure is coming from everywhere, which, in Australia, I definitely felt that. In Japan, I felt that in some ways, but you get pressure from government, from society, from CEOs, from all these different angles, which means that the crazy ideas that I had in Australia and the US and stuff that may have not taken off is absolutely taking off here. And you've got this like perfect combination of fantastic people, super, super smart ideas, the investment, so the cash that you actually need to go into these areas. So one of the things I can talk about is public now. We're working with the UAE government on applying AI to their legislative process. So the UAE announced just not that long ago that they would create a regulatory intelligence ecosystem in office. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because we released a white paper just recently, but basically you're applying AI to the core of the government, which is how to write laws and regs. Like, can you think of any other government in the world that would want to do something like this?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of issues and challenges and all these kinds of really complicated things that come with that. But I could not imagine myself leading a project as innovative and as transformational as this.
Yeah.
I even got to go to the World Economic Forum in Davos for this. Like, it just wouldn't happen in other places.
Totally relatable. I also, the
Yeah,
Maldives, Davos, go there all.
Okay, now I'm painting a bad picture of myself. So you asked me where I've been. This is where I've been.
You know, it's interesting that you say, and look, I agree with you here that what other sort of governments or that level of sort of organization would be willing to apply generative AI to, you know, that sophisticated, important rule-making function, right, to a legislative function, and at the same time, part of me thinks, why not, right? Because I was having a discussion just recently, the sort of the old school lawyer versus the new school lawyer, which is, you know, the old school lawyers, I have keys to this gate of knowledge, and it is really, really just me. This knowledge is flat. It exists in books. You don't even know how to sift through what is the good and bad parts of this knowledge. Whereas now, you know, there's a growing movement, more of a shift to being, not only is the information democratized, but instead of legal knowledge, it is data. It is a sophisticated tree of conditional logic, if-then statements. And if you accept that, which a lot of people don't, frankly, I don't think it's a leap to be like, why wouldn't we apply generative AI to this? Either, you know, generation of the rules themselves, updating, you know, interrogating, applying, facts to the rules, and like what is the outcome based on those rules. But that's I'd imagine that's kind of stuff that you're dealing with in the context of that work, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess what's just the difference that I'm seeing is, I remember when we were chatting, we were kind of like this black ops in the background about legal ops and about legal technology and stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening to this that also felt like, yes, maybe they were entering the conversation. Yes, their CLO or their CEO or CFO started to understand legal technology, but it was still like emerging. Whereas I think in the 12 months, and again, focus more on the Middle East here, there's just this like wider acceptance. And like I'm gonna call it now that the legal tech community is just bordering out now to just the tech community. Like that, it's no longer this like little group on the corner. It's now entered like the main stage, and we're seeing these huge companies now, like Harvey reach 8 billion valuation, Legora hit 5 billion valuation. Like there's lots of money now going into these, and when you look at some of the top AI businesses, like these legal tech businesses are in there.
Yeah.
So there's just this big adoption, big change, and I think we're getting out. I think what did Mary used to say? Mary Carroll used to say, from the backroom to the boardroom. I think that's actually starting to happen, if not already.
You and I had, along these lines, we had this discussion a couple of years ago. The simple question is where does legal ops end? Or like, what is the next stage
what's
of
the character arc?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. You know, I think you were, you know, and others in this space kind of sort of rightly saying, there is a development arc to the technology and its application. And now you're kind of in a space where you're seeing, and I've heard similar voices kind of say, what was it, legal can move from, in the car analogy, can move from the brake pedal to the sat nav, right?
Okay.
Right, like they start to be able to push or describe or lead for deployment of technology and stuff like this. I mean, question for you is you know, why is that? Why is legal tech suddenly, not suddenly by any stretch, but now shoulder to shoulder with the biggest tech companies in the world?
I think everyone wants to like crack this next. What's the Salesforce of legal? What's the Oracle of legal? Like everyone wants to be this operating system for legal because it's like traditionally this just untapped area. But I think it's beyond just legal tech. It's this idea of legal operations, right? It's about how do you create efficient legal functions. Now, I've spent the last probably 3 or 4 years, even since we started chatting, to just look beyond what can I do for my legal team and what can I do within that sphere, and how do you actually influence it across the entire business? That to me is really where that shift is trying to move towards. Your question about like what's driving that, look, I think it's all those other macro drivers like cost and doing things differently and technology and stuff. And CFOs, you know, look at their cost sheets and they see why are we spending $100 million with law firms, and it's all these kind of things that are coming out. But operations is still, legal operations still is pushing into this, but it's no longer this like legal conversation. Like I'm spending a lot more time with CFOs and CEOs than I am spending with CLOs, just because that's where the drive is coming from. No longer GCs or CLOs, which may be controversial, but I think I've said it on this podcast a number of times. Sometimes legal innovation is not going to come directly from legal. It comes outside.
The legal function has a image of being slow and reluctant to transform, absent external factors. And basically what you're saying is the external factor in this case is just another executive, right? Have you, I'm curious so far in your experience, especially out here, have you heard or been a part of discussion that, especially with the non-legal members, want to use more technology, want to use generative AI, need to, don't know what to do? Is that still,
Yeah, no, it's still definitely a thing, because here in the Middle East, you see smaller legal teams than you would traditionally see in other places. Why? Some of it is because regulation is not as intense as other places in the world, but it's also just that there are still a lot of businesses that are developing. Look at what's going on here in Dubai, look what's going on in Saudi Arabia. There are new businesses that are just kind of being created very, very quickly. So there's these small teams that are trying to set up. And what's interesting about that is because they're setting up, it's no longer a conversation about how do I transform, it's how do I create, right? And those conversations don't start with the GC, because sometimes the GC is not there, it doesn't exist yet. Sometimes it's with the CEO.
Got it.
So it's a whole different conversation. So like again, in Australia and other places that I've worked, there's always been a conversation of, well, we have 30 people, we have 200 people, we have 300 people, whatever it is, we have these existing systems, existing processes. How do we like continue to add value or add new value? If you're setting up like a legal function from scratch, all of a sudden you start to think, well, should I do things completely differently? What does my right sourcing model now look like if I've got no legacy systems, if I have no processes? And what can I do to insource versus outsource? So this is a CFO discussion. If traditionally I would have gone to X law firm here or X law firm there to set up, or maybe got secondments to fill certain gaps or whatever it is, the conversations now with CEOs and CFOs as well, instead of hiring 10 people, should I hire 2 people and invest the rest in tech? Or is it 10 people and invest X million in tech? What does that look like? What does that mix look like? That to me is an interesting piece, because it's less about, like I said, transformation and creation.
Got it. So they're starting with, they know what is possible, and they're starting with the question of like, what is, again, the right sourcing actually look like? Like in other words, that foundation, that base is the old ways are wrong. This is very like a James Bond movie. I feel like one of the last James Bond movies, the old ways. But Yeah, that seems like a radically...
Which is not held down by like your existing processes. And look, you're definitely going to run into organizations that have brought in legal people who come from law firms that effectively want to set up a law firm within an organization, because that's just what they know, right? All right, well, we need to have this department do this and this department do that. Then I need to hire people that have 10 PQE or whatever it is in this area. And that's probably, in most instances, a good way of approaching it. But the CFOs that we're seeing here, the CEOs that we're seeing here, COOs as well, are thinking, why? Why do it that way? And that's where we're starting to respond with, well, okay, let's think about a new hybrid function. And then you have to rethink everything. Like, how do you partner with your business if you have less people and more technology? It's not as a close relationship. So then do you depersonalize things? Well, maybe it's not about depersonalizing. Maybe it's about getting out of the way, like you said. Maybe it's not being on that break and being that SATCOM.
So, oh man. So there's two quick things. One, I had a discussion last year with a guest of the podcast, and we were discussing what I called kind of zero legal team, right?
Okay.
The bulk of the legal function existing in or through some system. Maybe it's predominantly contract management or related, and then someone who may or may not be a lawyer has the authority to say, okay, this issue is now substantial or risky enough, I'm just going to outsource.
Yeah.
But even then, there's no legal member there sort of full time, because a lot of the legal processes are captured in and through that system. The second thing in your comments there made me sort of think, it sounds like you're not, based on these conversations you're describing with sort of other C-suite, you're not fighting an education battle. You're engaging in ideas into planning and potentially execution, right? So that's a big, because I feel like at least for me, and in many contexts out in Japan and other people that I've talked to in other places, there's still a bit of what I call kind of education or communication battle, which is simply like, let go of the old ways. Let's talk about what is currently possible.
Yeah.
But again, you're not fighting that battle if someone comes in and sets the stage of, we have a blank canvas. What can we do?
Well, there are definitely still people that will say the traditional way will work, in which case you're probably right in some instances, and continue to do that. What I'm saying here is that there is just so many businesses, opportunities to change, that I'm shifting my focus to more of the innovative functions, the innovative thinkers, and so on. And what I'm finding, and this isn't a criticism, it's just that when you speak to the CEO or the CFO or that type of angle, it's a very different conversation, because it's not about trying to re-educate a lawyer who has succeeded by following what has worked in the past. You can't take that away from someone. The reason why they're successful is because it's impossible.
Don't take it away from the lawyers.
No. Well, take it away from them traditionally, and it's hard to do that. Whereas speaking to a CEO who, by the way, needs to also set up the rest of the business, like legal is just one. You've got all these other functions they need to set up, and if you take to them an innovative idea, then they're willing to try it, is what I'm saying, or at least what I'm experiencing here. And everything that I learned through, I go back to the legal ops clock wheel, and I go back to the ACC maturity framework, and I look at traditional legal ops. And if you look at that in isolation, let's say we ignore the change program because we're not change anymore, that effectively is a blueprint for what our legal team should be, or what a legal function should be.
Yep.
What I would challenge us to think beyond is, well, what if that isn't a team? What if that's a capability? I wonder if that capability sits across the entire business.
Yep.
This way. And so what if legal is not a team of humans, but like you said, potentially a system, and that capability can be trained across different parts of the business. HR have capability to do their own recruitment letters or documents or contracts. Procurement have their ability to be able to extract stuff from contracts, do renewals automatically, whatever it may be, right? These are things that traditionally legal have done. And then for that highly strategic stuff, perhaps you only have one or two. This could be a chief legal officer, or you decide that actually you're going to outsource that to a law firm. And that's my whole other prediction, which is law firms are going to get smaller and highly specialized because of all that gap that I just mentioned that's going to be filled. But why not run a business like that? If you consider, and I'm not saying I do, legal, this is a view that I don't necessarily share premise, but if you consider as like legal work traditionally as back office work, then of course a CEO or a CFO will always think, how do I get this to the lowest cost?
Yeah.
Always, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I know that there's conversation about moving strategically and blah, 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 but what if moving strategically as a legal function is removing us completely?
Yeah. That is a hot take, son.
But you're seeing it in other places. Like,
Yeah.
Most companies now don't have their own developers. Right? They're outsourcing that, or they've got rid of it completely. Yeah. There are probably other examples that I don't have off the top of my head where they said this no longer is something that we want to invest in, and technology can do a lot of it.
Something you said a second ago, for example, like working off of the clock wheel, taking these 12 capabilities and either spreading out or kind of saying like, hey, business unit A, this is part of a valuable high impact suite of functions. You're going to do whatever, document management, right? If you do that, you start assigning those all the way out, what legal is left with can and should be quite small, right? Like I think that something you said even before that was talking about sort of challenges around depersonalization. If you start systematizing or high-teching everything, I still, referring back to sort of the zero legal team where everything is completely tech, I still think that you're going to have a need for human consultation. It could be challenges around interpretation of a rule or reg. It could be challenges around confidence in the output of a generative AI agent. It could really just be, as I'm sure many lawyers are familiar, it could just be the sanity check conversation. Someone, almost like a therapist style approach where someone says, I think this is the answer, and the lawyer just smiles and nods. That is the answer.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything here.
Human validation, yeah.
Yeah, I still think that will be, sort of super important or necessary. But it's interesting because in different contexts, I've heard this discussion point about depersonalization. I don't think we're going to end up, in extremes of some company sort of putting up their hands and saying our entire legal function is a machine and they've sent us off the rails. Like, I don't think it'll go sort of, to that sci-fi level.
But where does risk fall then? So this is a question that comes up quite a lot. So if let's say, for instance, you're using your legal team, and this could even extend to a legal team using an external law firm to effectively outsource your risk, which is what sometimes the legal function is I need someone else to make a call.
Yeah.
Where does that go? And I think that's the reason why things are going to slow down, because if you think about a standard company RACI matrix and stuff, what you're effectively doing is pushing the accountability and the responsibility over, as opposed to just the responsibility.
Yeah.
So what happens when the business units now are accountable for all the things that legal were accountable for? And would they trust these systems? Yes, no, maybe, but they're going to have to make the decision themselves.
Yeah.
Are they? I don't know if I would be comfortable. Like, but if you had a tool, let's go to like contract review, simple one, where you've looked at it from a commercial perspective and you've gone to your internal team, legal team, to make sure that whatever they need to review, whatever they need to review. They come back and say, here, follow a template or a guide, which happens for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Did the business do that and do they feel confident? Well, probably not, and they want the legal team to give their sign off.
Yeah.
This is just an exploited version of that.
Yeah.
So what happens if all of that sign off happens? That's where I think things are going to be like, okay, well maybe we want one person,
right,
who is ultimately accountable for it. Maybe we want two people.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the other way.
Which also, if you follow this hypothetical, and you get into sort of what's the JD for that role, because it doesn't look like a current version at all. And more importantly, I'm knowledgeable, I'm confident, I've got experience and legal background, but if the system encompasses so much of the heretofore legal function, and I'm now responsible for an extremely high volume of not extreme, but risky, higher dollar value, if in the aggregate, do I want to sit in that chair? Because, and then depending on the title, like when you describe it that way, that sounds like a GC. But some company may, well, you're not a GC. You're just given the okay, the rubber stamp on this system output. Would salary sort of increase commensurate with the responsibility of that role? Would the GC function itself change? And then there's that other question about just the strategic advisor part, like what happens to that? Because again, in this hypothetical, this person, this role, the GC, it's not even the GC of the future, but that legal role of the future, it's buried in contract review. Short,
maybe
theoretically higher quality output that I have to scrutinize less, but still.
Plot twist?
Plot twist.
You want a plot twist?
Yeah, plot twist.
What if that role is not a legal role, but a data analyst role? So let's go back to like the concepts of what we were talking about earlier, which is like,
yes, I'm going to cut you off. No, yes, I agree. I
agree.
Done,
let's back up.
I agree. Done. Listeners, you have the answer. The future has been predicted. Look, let me just jump in and don't lose your train of thought, but simply, I've been pushing this exact shift for lawyers increasingly, or not lawyers, but sort of an in-house legal function.
Yeah.
You need to approach things in terms of data.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about things in terms of this contract I worked so hard on.
Yeah.
This email that I put a nice, concise summary. It looks so nice. It looks so nice. You need to shift into, this is a set of data.
Yeah.
What is anomalous? Sure. What is good enough output, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's funny that we haven't had this type of conversation, but we're arriving at a similar conclusion. But you tell me, you actually, let me see if I feel like this is now a quiz. The data analyst.
Yeah.
Let's give it a JD.
Yeah.
Legal function data analysis. Data analyst. Maybe something fancier.
I want it to be more strategic.
But they are combing through data and potentially on top of that using another sort of generative AI agent to assess, this is anomalous, this output contract, this deal is anomalous, and it meets a certain risk threshold, therefore I'm outsourcing, therefore I'm going outside the company to you don't like it, you don't you tell me.
We're on the same path. Yeah, we're on the same path.
You tell me.
Well, let me try build it in different layers so I can try to explain how I'm thinking about it. But if we assume that the future of lawyers' value is judgment, as opposed to like type, contract.
Dude, I feel like you're really undermining my second year of law school type class, because I got an A in that class. I got a special award in type.
I'm sure. So you've got this data layer, right? And that to me is all about judgment, right? Using data to make better decisions. So we go from like having these stressed days, nights, whatever, where we're typing out contracts. And I'm sure everyone has an experience, or whether it's email, contract, whatever, drafting something where it doesn't feel like you're adding much value. You're purely just like, no, I want this indemnity. No, I want this indemnity. It's just not adding a lot of value. But what will push us to, because all of that stuff it should be done in somewhat a better way, is they will look to lawyers, or whatever you want to call them in the future, for their judgment. So we become reviewers and assessors based on human elements, right? Because the data elements, or the technical elements, can always be done better and faster than humans can. That part is like non-negotiable, the data piece. But then there's other human aspects that, at least at the moment, AI can't judge very well. Relationships, body language, context, all those types of things, it's not quite there yet. So what if this new role in the future is someone that can know how to structure data better to get better outcomes, which is where are all the things in the company that are signals to me to make a better decision on this legal thing. And then what can I do with that information? So whether that's visualizing the information certain ways, whether it's connecting it, or whatever, right? It's this kind of role, and that's the reason why I said data analyst is like not strategic enough, but it's this ability to be able to understand data to then make better judgments. Because ultimately, I think that's what, as you mentioned, people want from a lawyer.
Yeah.
Is I don't care how the sausage is made, I just want the sausage.
Yeah.
Give me the advice. So then if we think that as a corporate, you're able to centralize data or connect data, and then as a lawyer, you're able to say, well, this is how the data should be connected in order to understand legal risk, and then look at the patterns to make those recommendations. AI can obviously help in all that whole process. Then add the human judgment layer, which again, at the moment, it can't until AGI takes over the world. Then you enter this different role.
The interesting thing here, this makes me think that that type of role, while it might have more pressure, more sort of volume, potentially, definitely different skill sets required, but also to a company, that just sounds wildly valuable, right? If you can, you're unlocking, again, taking existing data, putting it in the right format, reusing it way more effectively than it was potentially used the first time. You're unlocking dormant value. You are increasing the confidence level in our decision making.
Right.
And, you know, I don't think it's much of an exaggeration to say that's like a superpowered sort of legal function, but more importantly, just to the business as a whole, right? And that just sounds, you know, just wildly valuable. Like, why wouldn't you start to be a, you know, in a sort of a corporate hierarchy, maybe you are a, you know, mid-level, even higher level person, but depending on your level of access to pieces of data, you can start producing output or optimizing judgment at the highest levels of that company, right? That's just a fascinating idea to play with.
I know, that's the reason why I thought I'd talk to you about it. I know you'd love it. But the reason why I'm getting to this like conclusion, and I think in the past I've spoken to this, is like well, just get your data in order and then non-legal people can make legal decisions. What I found through some geeking out that I love to do is I dove into the world of knowledge graphs. I don't know if you've done any work with knowledge graphs before.
No, I'm familiar with the concept. That's it.
Knowledge graph at a super high level is just how to connect information through different types of connections. That's all it is. Probably underplaying a little bit there. But if you're able to create and connect information through knowledge graphs, through a set of information or an ontology, you're able to do retrieval from that using AI in a much more consistent way, reduce hallucination, all that kind of stuff. Without going into a huge amount of detail about that, because that's a whole separate podcast, which I absolutely do. I love that area. What I found through that process is, in order to actually dictate to someone that has no idea about law, let's say a data analyst or a data engineer or whatever that of category that is, on how to connect that information is actually very difficult to do. And therefore, how the data is structured, all that information is connected, is going to dramatically impact the output that you get. So what we end up finding is I literally had to sit like a data engineer and a lawyer next to each other until they became basically one person. And I said, figure this out. And it took a very long time to do that. And then I thought, well, maybe what if the lawyers of the future have those skills? So you understand how to connect information, understand how to create those connections, how to create this ontology, and then importantly, how to interpret that information, because then it's complex on the other end as well. So you go from like, I guess, university to learning how to apply law to now how to criticize output. And that output is then this data point. So does that mean we're gonna like have less lawyers? Maybe not. Like maybe in this legal function, you're making judgment calls. That's your job. As opposed to typey, It's clicky clicky, which is like a decision. I don't know.
Sure. Yes.
Done.
I was with you on that ride all the way to
We solved it.
all the way to clicky clicky.
I don't know. It's a crazy idea. I haven't expanded much on this, but data is going to be around. It's getting more important.
Yeah.
Structuring data is going to be really important. Making judgment on data is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And in a way, lawyers have been doing that since forever.
Yeah. I maintain that fundamentally the legal function has not changed much. Other factors have changed, macro external factors. The speed at which legal should help support business goal and business strategy, that has changed. The volume of data that legal has to deal with, that has changed. The complexity, multi-jurisdictional deals, blah, 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 that has changed, right? But fundamentally, the goal of like outcome for business or client, I think it doesn't matter. It's just not changed. But I think there's a lot of sort of discussion, like it's radically different, they're taking our jobs. No, they're just doing stuff faster.
Faster, yeah.
That no one's taking your job, but again, if you were just locked in a book in a library, you were doing the same thing, just much slower.
Slower, yeah.
All right. Whew. Switch gears a little bit. Where are we on the generative AI hype cycle?
This is such an interesting question. I'm not going to say it depends, because that's annoying.
Yeah.
I reckon we are entering the trough of disillusionment.
Got it.
We're past the peak of inflated expectations. I think we're past that, and now we're slowly getting closer and closer to the peak of, to the trough of disillusionment, right? To the bottom piece. Why? I think it's because right out of the gates, a lot of people, not just organizations, people wanted to adopt this type of technology, and then there was a lot of hype around its capabilities, right? Everyone got excited about ChatGPT and other tools, and it was working relatively well. Oh no, we ran into some issues about context. Oh no, we ran into some issues about hallucinations. Okay, some of that stuff's solved. Bigger context windows, solved it. Hallucinations, not so much. Okay, well, let's maybe move into this agentic world where it can be semi-deterministic, so we can know exactly the path it takes. We know what data is going to be produced to it, and so on and so forth. Okay, well, maybe the hallucination is still too bad because now we have a scaling problem, which is like it can't do retrieval across millions of documents. Okay, well, let's solve it. That's a data problem. It's not an AI problem. You start to solve those problems, and so it gets better and better and better. But that whole journey that I just described, business users aren't feeling value from that yet.
Yeah.
Because it's still in its training phase. It's still in its, and there's lots of studies out there to show how something like X%, a very high percentage of these projects have failed. I don't think that's because the technology wasn't good. It's because the expectations were too high.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, expectations too high. And that doesn't mean we should lower expectations, because we need to progress the conversation. It's just that when I think about like the expectations my mum and dad have about AI versus the reality of AI, they're very different. And that's the same as a lot of people that are sitting in business and stuff. So where do I think we're at? We're on the downward trodden. We're not at the bottom, I don't think, but we're getting closer.
Yeah.
But AGI could change that.
Interesting. Expectations, and I think perhaps expectations account for a lot of being on the downward path with respect to generative AI. I have a lot of opinions on sort of where the expectations come from or why. But do you think any of the, even today, putting aside the last few years of developments, even today, do you think the expectations are fair, reasonable? Do you think it varies radically?
I feel like, and this is like a relatively Dubai thing, but understanding AI is like paddle. Have you played paddle?
No.
It's kind of like pickleball. Have you played pickleball?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I know what pickleball is.
Okay.
I'm not a maniac.
Okay, fine. The analogy's lost on you, but the point is, paddle's one of those games that the level of skill that you need to play is relatively low, but then the gap to get to expert is very, very high.
Oh, you mean paddle?
Paddle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, oh, that one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I play it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Maldives. Yeah. So that gap, right, to get to that first level, which is like I can generally play this game, and have fun, blah blah blah. But then to actually get really good at it is actually quite difficult. And I'm sure there's a lot of other sports that do this.
Yeah.
So that becomes a dangerous game because sometimes when you feel like you know a little bit, don't know a lot, it becomes quite dangerous. So what I see often is people read what you can see online, whether it's on LinkedIn or something that takes less than 3 minutes to read, which is like generally like the attention span that most people have, including myself. Yeah. So what can you learn in 3 minutes? AI good, AI do stuff, AI a little risky for data that's sensitive, and AI hallucination, so double check things. Like that's really what you're pulling out of this, and I'm oversimplifying for comedic effect.
No, you're not oversimplifying. I feel like we're like two well-dressed cavemen being like, AI good, expectations high.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So if you don't understand some of the really difficult things to understand, then you can apply that logic that you just read in 3 minutes to a lot of things. Yeah. Well, okay, AI is good, and if I give it the right information, then it's going to give me a pretty credible thing back to me. Yeah. And if I'm good at what I do, I can criticize it and I can get it. But then there's this like complacency effect where I'm going to criticize it the first time, maybe the second time, probably a little bit the third time, not so much the fourth time. And then after that, it's like hands off. It's like this experience where I'm sure 5-10 years ago when someone said, you could sit in your driver's seat and not touch the wheel. Everyone would be like, no way.
Yeah. Impossible, right?
Impossible. Yeah. Now, people fall asleep in their Tesla. Yeah. Right? We here in Dubai, Abu Dhabi as well, driverless taxis. Yeah. Not long ago, people were like, there's no way I would get in. Yeah. I don't even trust having like Siri on my phone and speaking to it. Yeah. Now people are getting into cars with their lives and stuff like that. Yeah. So the expectation gap there is, I think, tricky because people know less. It's not a criticism. It's just that once you know a little bit, you become dangerous. If you go onto the journey like I saw that we have, the more you dive into it, the more you realize I have no clue. Yeah. You get into really, really deep things, and you're like, there is so much I need to learn. And then you become more safer, and you do things like different.
Yeah, that resonates so much. I feel
you're
like
a nerd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in good company. But you know, like, I can remember sort of, this is an obnoxious parallel, but I can remember doing job interviews, and it's such a throwaway question about like, do you have skill with like Microsoft Office tools? And people being like, yeah, absolutely, with like confidence. Yeah. And I'd be like, have you ever used a macro? And they go, what's that? Like, I use Excel every day. Yeah. And I'd be like, do you know index formulas? And I'm like, what's that? Like, oh, okay, right. Yeah. Regularly seeing it, engaging with it is not the same as mastering it. And that's the sort of, it's a wonderful framework. It resonates quite a bit. You and I, and maybe others have talked about how to, quote unquote, treat or view generative AI as, I think actually maybe your words, a very, very intelligent college grad.
Yeah,
right? And it's such a wonderful point of reference, it's such a wonderful model. But I think people, out in the business world aren't really fully understanding the ramifications of that, because every business, when they're looking at their talent pipeline, they're like, I want the best college, I want this, these people from this, and they get 21 amazing grades or whatever, and then you're just like, you're a genius now, do everything, and the business and those supervisors of that talent quickly realize, oh, you need some structure, guidance, feedback. You're smart, no one's arguing the point, but if I don't provide the structure, guidance, feedback, like the output that I'm going to get out of you is going to be kind of all over the place. I just feel like people aren't considering a very sort of easily understandable, accessible, kind of metaphor or analogy enough.
Can we play a quick, like, put a finger down game?
Do it.
So people listening, put a finger down if you've been trying to implement a legal AI solution and your IT team said, why don't you use Copilot? Down. Finger down.
Can the mic hear me? Put a finger down or down?
Because that has happened so many times. Or why are you trying to procure a CLM system that have this AI capability? Like, get rid of that module. Copilot can do it. Now, Copilot is capable of doing lots of different things, but you've got IT people who know enough about AI and generative AI, and then think that Copilot can do all kinds of specific things.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone in Design Thinking Japan. Shout out, and she was, we were talking about like it's a disservice to the business and to IT people that like generative AI is technology. Here, network security guy, you're now in charge of this. Like,
yeah,
that's not. Again, it's not fair in terms of expectations for the output of the cutting edge technology. It's not fair to that person, and you're at every level setting yourself up for failure. But I do think that's right. Like, I'm going to pass on criticisms of IT functions.
Learning something new is hard. Like, this is a very human moment. It's like, particularly for lawyers or for really any professional, to build your entire career where your knowledge is so valuable and you've learned it over a period of time, to then technology progressing so fast you aren't able to grasp it and be an expert in it. Of course, like, it's like really challenging to be able to do that. And then IT folk, just the same as anyone else, need to learn this as fast as possible. And it's really difficult. So that's the reason why I just think that when you hear the marketing and you hear the capabilities, and this is, again, not a criticism on OpenAI and the other ones that talk about what AI can do, because like, how do you describe something that is probably the most complex thing that humans have done in a way that mum and dad can understand? Like, it's really tricky, AI good. Like, it's this kind of situation. So then when you apply that to that, okay, well, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And then unfortunately, the responses to a lot of those will be like, yeah, I can do that if you do this, or yeah, I can do that, but you got to do this. There's a lot of like ifs and buts. And if you're speaking to any tech out there who are demonstrating technology to you and they start responding by saying something followed by a but or an if or an or, then it's not going to be there. And that just sets the wrong expectation. Set expectations. Now, that question then is, well, when you're doing any AI technology project, should you just lower your expectations? I don't think so either, because then we're not going to drive as fast.
Ooh.
So where do you find this balance? Because if you do stop and say, okay, well, look, I've tried once and it's not very good, it didn't meet my expectations, so come back to me in 6 months when it's better. You shouldn't also do that.
Yeah.
So you got to constantly keep pushing, not meeting expectations. I honestly think that this like next skill that humans need will just be this like resiliency and change.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that's going to happen now.
Yeah. Interesting. Along these lines, one more question. I was reading something just last week along the lines of where we are in the hype cycle with generative AI, talking about trust in systems, trust in generative AI systems, trust in the output of those systems, regardless of the context. Could be LLM, could be another sort of more tool that has a generative AI element to it.
Yeah.
But the argument was the only way, and maybe this relates to expectations. Trust is built by repeated use over time, and if you try to rush either part of that equation, in other words, periodic use or one-time use, or if you try to compress over time into right now, you're going to have a trust problem, right? Is that fair? Do you agree with that? Because I think that accounts for a lot of people early on saying generative AI can do anything. We don't need a legal team. Maybe Salesforce cut a bunch of people, or other companies cut a bunch of people. They kind of were like, oh, it was too much. Yeah. But it's not that the technology itself is completely useless. It's far from it, right? It's, we need to understand what it is. We do want to build trust in it, but it only happens with iteration, a little bit of like sticking to it, resilience, to use your words, over time.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair?
I think you just described like the relationship that you have with humans. Because the first time you meet a lawyer, do you have immediate trust for them? Well, you have some trust for them because they've gone through some accredited process to become a lawyer. So that gets them to a certain bar. But then in order for you and I to build a relationship where I'm going to take what you do and take it blindly, would probably never happen. I would have some level of scrutiny. So what's interesting here is that the interaction between human and human is different to human to technology, where if technology is not giving me exactly what my expectations are, and it's wrong slightly, I'm not going to trust it ever. If a human did that, you'd be like, oh, look, here's my perspective, blah, 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 and it'd be different. Right?
Yes.
So there's these weird expectations, but the more credentialized I feel you are, the higher the starting position is. And then from there, we start to build relationships. So when it comes to AI, the more credentialized the AI can be, whether it's, I don't know, maybe there are certification programs that the AI goes through. Maybe
Or
there are
benchmarking.
Yeah, maybe there are like agreed benchmarking or whatever. So it gets to a certain point, it's going to lift that high, or that bar higher. But that gap there still needs to be filled by, like you said, that ongoing time. But immediately you're putting a different expectation on technology than you are on humans.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing I see when I work with lawyers who are very much against AI is as soon as it gets something wrong, or even close to being wrong, it's like, whoop,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
whew. Like, it's
Yeah. My job is safe. My existence is.
But imagine if you were sitting in a room with your external counsel, all right, and they've got something wrong because maybe I didn't give them all the context. Would you do the same thing?
No, never. Well, actually, I mean, there are people that would do that. I mean, there's.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure, but it's not like it's not a normal thing to do.
No.
So I think it then comes back down to these expectations. Like you're putting different expectations on stuff, and when can we start to build a relationship, quote unquote, with AI in the same way we can build it with humans? And I've been doing a lot of research into AI that develops with you or learns with you.
Yeah.
So it's something that you almost like get as a fresh grad out of university, right? And it's someone that's really confident, really excited, gets some stuff wrong every now and again, but is generally pretty smart. And then they go with you on a journey. And like ChatGPT does this to some extent with its long-term memory and things like that. So it knows what my name is, my age, and all the kind of stuff that you're putting into it. But when you get that like highly specialized thing where it knows exactly how you respond, it knows exactly what kind of mood you're in based on other data points and stuff like that, is it then you start to trust it more? I don't know. Like I keep coming back to this human element.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Does that answer your question?
I mean, it's an open-ended question.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more and an opportunity to close out the episode. This is make a prediction or choose a side.
Yeah. I love both of those two things.
Generative AI will be more agentic or more of an assistant? So more autonomy, or in other words, how much human in the loop? Less?
Yeah.
I'm going to see way more agentic generative AI, or a bunch of people knowing how to use the technology really well with 3 of my own custom agents, but they're assistants in the background that help me be, very much, kind of a cutting edge legal business empowering professional. So agentic versus assistant.
I think it's going to be definitely more assistant, because people want still to control things.
Yeah.
And I think if they want to build a relationship with whatever this is, to build confidence, which is a really important piece, then it has to be something that you continue to work with. Autonomy is quite hard because humans change their minds. So if you're giving it an instruction and it's going so far down the road without getting more and more of your input or more and more of your direction, like how does it know? Then you might say, well, look, it can predict and it can do that kind of stuff, and maybe it's going to get there, but I look at my personal relationship with friends and stuff like that. If I ask people to do things or I rely on people and stuff, you're not giving them 100% autonomy, I don't think. At least I'm not. and you want to be collaborative and stuff like that. So that's the reason why I think it's probably more of an assistant. If AI, we spoke about this, I think on the podcast once with Elliot, back in the day, is if AI can just be in the background, that would be better. Like it's in the background on your phone, it's in the background in your car, it's in the background in your house, or at least for me. And in your work environment, do I have to go to a platform? Do I have to go to Quotable? No, I wouldn't want to do that. I know it's not answering your question directly, but that's the reason why I'm leaning more to this assistant. Assistant just is everywhere, but it's constantly checking in for validation, for context, for additional data points. Autonomy freaks people out, including me. Too much autonomy. Where do you sit? Have you answered this yet?
My real answer is short-term assistant, long-term autonomy.
Ooh.
Long-term, there will be
Are we talking
agents.
AGI autonomy, like artificial general intelligence autonomy, or?
No,
Ooh.
I would say highly engineered, highly monitored, very powerful agents in a true sense. The technology will develop and companies will adopt a legal agent that does everything that you could possibly imagine of a legal team. And if you think about the oft-cited anecdote of like NDAs, right? And extremely low risk. So what are we doing there? Why are we spending time in that to begin with? I think that companies will appreciate, sort of trust the technology more. And even when there's a little bit of, this output or this contract or this whatever suggestion is, it's not maybe 100% right, but like it's good enough. They're going to sort of, on the spectrum, lean more towards NDA, low risk sort of a thing. I know I don't have to have high-powered lawyer review everything here. They're going to start going that direction, and I think it would be well and truly good enough for so many companies that they would have full legal agent, and it's I think a market potential, companies like PwC to deploy and maintain. I think there's a huge market opportunity there, but short-term assistant, long-term agent, not AGI. Although, was it Molt? What is the Molt? The all-agent social platform in the last 2 weeks that exploded? No.
I need to research this.
Yes, please do. It's a conversation for another time. Humans are only allowed to monitor. It's effectively Reddit, but just agents.
No, okay, I did see it. Scary.
And they self-organized. They started to create a religion.
Of course.
Yes. Crustafarianism, based on lobsters.
Okay.
It's absolutely bonkers. And at the same time, like, they made some rules, they made lore, they made backstory. It's fantastic stuff.
What a way to end.
What a way to end. On that note, I always keeps it weird. On that note, Alex, my brother, thank you for your time. Thank you for the space. From Dubai, from PwC's lovely facilities.
Nice.
Thank you again, and we will talk sooner than later.
Boop.
Peace. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If so, like, subscribe, or leave a review. Find the Legal Ops Podcast on your podcast app of choice, or select episodes and additional content on YouTube. And please do reach out with guest or topic recommendations. Thank you again.
The haptic thing. So
Skin contact.
yeah, because if it can't really go through clothes because it's not strong enough. Because if it does, it's just a taser at that point. You don't really want that. So it basically just sends electrical impulses to your muscles to contract them. To kind of simulate you moving, like getting hit in the virtual world.
Sign me up.
if you want to just take your watch because you want to like scratch the inside.
Nope,
Because
don't
we
wanna
don't
do
actually
that.
own this. It's kind
Yep.
of lent to us.
Sure.
I haven't seen this. Give me a
All
second.
right, should I suit up?
Yeah. So
Alright.
when you just need to put your arms in, but you just need to like make it as tight as possible. Zip this down and then tighten it down. And it should be.
I'm just gonna love this.
So it's zipped up. Okay.
I think this is the funniest shit.
Yeah. This is actually, unbeknownst to you, this is the only reason I came here.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
You guys pre-planned this. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Have you done this, Ellie? Yeah.
I refuse
It's so fun.
to. Is it good?
Good. And the biceps as well?
It kind of looks like a bike, like a motorbike.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it kind of has that vibe where you need
Oh
to
my
put it
God.
in the right position. Okay. Let me just do this quickly. And it has like a specific kind of layout to it.
Got it.
Otherwise it won't work.
If nothing else, this is going to be fit check B-roll.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go, that works. Okay.
Went to Dubai, had to blend in.
Yeah, exactly.
Got this jacket.
Oh wow! It kind of actually fits really nice.
On the arms, yeah, because it is kind of stretchy, but
Yeah.
in the sense, because I mean this is like a medium.
Looks like kind of. You look really buff, bro.
You're implying that I'm not really buff? A lot of offensive things being said here.
Okay.
Wear that to the gym.
Okay, so we'll
You
put
gonna
it.
try to zip it up? Okay.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
From personal experience. Okay, so I'd stand in the middle here. So everything's going to be controlled here. Just relax. You don't want to like tense any muscles or anything.
Controlled, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll basically have full control over your movements.
I got it.
Standing in the center because you don't want to like hit your hand on the table.
No, right, no,
So-
obviously.
So we'll do around about 35% power, just so it doesn't jump straight to 100 and you get very shocked. Just so you understand.
I also enjoy foreplay. Yes.
Okay, so we'll do the left and right arm. It goes for 5 seconds. If you feel it, I can't stop it. So you kind of just got to live through the pain. So we'll do the left arm. Yeah, you feel it? Okay, we'll do the right arm also.
Okay. Got it. Sure.
Yeah, so you're not doing that.
Nope.
Yep.
What?
Okay. Yeah, that's not it. Okay, so we'll do the explosion. We'll simulate what the explosion will feel like. Just relax. Don't tense any muscles. Okay, so
Hey.
do you want to count down from 5 and I'll shock him?
5.
Okay.
4.
Oh!
Okay. So okay.
50.
Which is
Like a electrical.
So we'll do we'll do the explosion again.
Okay, sure.
Don't stress. Just
Okay,
relax.
yeah, no, I'm totally
really?
relaxing. Okay.
right now it's just you're just torturing.
I feel like the first lab rat experiment, some scientist said this, some other scientist was like, no, we're going to stick with the pain thing.
So there is another software I have, but it needs your biceps. You'll have to like take your kind of sleeve off. So
okay.
I could do it, but what that does is it basically locks your arm into like a 90-degree angle, and you can't move it. Like you basically your arm's stuck like that, and you can't do anything.
Weird.
So I'm not going to do that.
Got it.
And also because you're wearing the shirt, it won't
Got it.
work.
Fair enough.
So we got pants. So I'm gonna give it to you. You can go to the bathroom. You can get changed. And you can do the pants.
Yeah, we're not doing pants. Yep. I am opting out of the pants.
Justin once accidentally locked himself